Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 4th, and it's now 1:30, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Chinovsky,
Present.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Present.
Commissioner Peters,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern is absent, Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Rubin.
Present.
If we could all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to make a slight modification to the agenda, which is to add a presentation in honor of Tom McCarthy's retirement. So if we could have a motion to modify the agenda.
Yes, I move to modify the agenda accordingly.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's for the record, that's going to be under 6.
6A.
Okay, and the
Yeah.
other items move down. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to our first item, which is to honor Tom McCarthy, our esteemed fire chief, assistant fire chief, for his retirement.
Wow. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank the commission, mayor, commissioners, Manager Labadie. Amazing journey. Never thought in a million years through my career that I'd be starting a new fire department. Not on the bingo card. However, I can say this. From the time I got the first phone call from Marshall back in the summer of 21, when I was still EMS chief from River Beach Fire Rescue, it sounded like a pretty worthwhile project. And as I retired out, I took a dive into the consultant's report and said, oh, wow. Wow. And with Chief Joseph in consulting on this project, Mary Hillman's passion, I'm telling you, his passion. I hope that somebody in this room got to feel how forceful he was with manager to make this happen and to play a small role in the beginning of this agency as far as getting the building built, getting the people in the building, and getting the people to provide service to an amazingly grateful customer base was all you can ask for as a chief. And the support that we've received, the agency continues to receive. It's just mind numbing. It really, truly is. I can't thank you enough for the blessing to be able to have worked here, to have been able to call Highland Beach my home for the last 3.5 years. It's quite an honor. It really, truly is. When service is in your heart, for whatever reason, you have to answer the call. And I'm very confident that between the administration that stays behind, the men and women downstairs tasked with it, obviously with your guidance and stewardship, I know that the department and the town are in some amazing hands. Thank you all very much for your time. Thank you all very much for your support and the love. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to steal a couple of seconds here just to say thank you to Tom for all of his work. We started this about 3.5 years ago, and his part of this, he says the small part. That's an understatement. And it was an essential part of getting it done on time, and getting it done well enough that we became the model for the rest of the communities in the county. So thank you so much for all you do and all you're going to do in the future. I'd like to introduce his wife, step up, say hello. This is Mrs. McCarthy. Thank you so much for sharing time with us over the years. I mean, it was a lot of work, the late nights and the 3 o'clock wake ups and the notes in the middle of the night for making sure everything's done and done correctly. We appreciate your supporting him, and we welcome you into your retirement years. And your daughter, come on. Say hello. That's his grandson, Wyatt,
Oh, is he?
and his daughter. And that's what
His daughter looks just like his grandma. Same color hair.
So that's his job going up. That's his next assignment is babysitting. But couldn't say goodbye without giving you something to remember us by. So we went out and purchased
Oh, well.
a plaque. Tom McCarthy, Assistant Chief of Operations, in recognition of your outstanding contribution and invaluable role in establishing the Highland Beach Fire Rescue. Your dedication, guidance, and service will never always be remembered. So.
Thank you very much. It means a lot to be a part of a family. So thank you very much. I appreciate everything.
Thank you for your service.
We'll have some
Congratulations.
refreshments upstairs.
Great.
So if you're still here, come on up and
Excellent.
shake it.
Excellent. Congratulations. Next item, resolution number 2025-027, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, ratifying the selection, appointments and term of office of members of the planning board and providing for an effective date. And this is for Mr. Roger Brown, and it is a reappointment. He already served a 3-year term, and this is a reappointment to serve out another 3-year term. Because it's a reappointment, it's not in our typical interview process or anything like that. So if there's no discussion, if we could have a motion.
Adopt resolution number 2025-027.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Moving on to Veterans Day proclamation. So we'd like to recognize November 11th, 2025 as Veterans Day and honoring all who have served and are serving our country. Whereas the United States of America stands as a beacon of liberty, justice, and democracy, values preserved by the unwavering dedication of the brave men and women who have served and continue to serve in our nation's military. And whereas the freedoms we hold dear come at a tremendous cost, borne not only by those in uniform, but also by their families, who have shared in the sacrifices and the service demands. And whereas on this Veterans Day, we gather as a community to recognize and honor the courage, resilience, and selflessness of veterans and active duty personnel, both past and present, whose sacrifices have safeguarded our way of life. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we as a community honor our local veterans, including our residents and employees who have worn the uniform, expressing our gratitude for their service and steadfast commitment to our nation. And whereas our community stands united in appreciation, recognizing that our veterans' bravery has enabled us to live in peace and freedom, and are committed to honor their legacy through gratitude and support. Now, therefore, Natasha Moore, Mayor of the Town of Highland Beach, and on behalf of my esteemed town commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2025 as Veterans Day. So yes, we really appreciate and recognize all the veterans in our community, and thank you for your service. So, okay. Moving on to public comments. Do we have? Chief?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. Today I am proud and pleased to present to you our Florida Commission on Accreditation and Certification Award. And as you know, this is something that we did back in 2016. We became an accredited agency with the state of Florida under their commission. And we've since been accredited 3 different times. The process is every 3 years that an assessment team will travel to us and spend 2.5 days with us and review all of our policies, our standards, our protocols, interview our staff, ride with our officers. They do an in-depth dive in your agency to get that recertification every year. And again, this year is the second term in a row, 3rd year, that we received a flawless report from the Accreditation Commission that came here to inspect us. And that's I don't want to say it's unheard of, but that is not common. That is their job, to look for your deficiencies, to where you may be at fault, to where you may lack. But this accreditation is so important to an agency, all agencies. We meet the standards of every agency in the state of Florida that subscribes to this. It's not an easy process to do. It takes commitment, it takes time, it takes expertise, and that group came here and spent time with us, gave us a glowing report. For some of you that were in the room on their exit interview, it was so impressive to hear, as the chief, to hear what they viewed about our department and how they felt the connection that they saw to the community people, the people that came in from the community, that spoke to them and met with them about how we interact and how we support this community. Hearing from some of you and the town manager, it was certainly something they valued, and they reiterated it in their report. But also what they picked up on and talked to us about was the culture that we have here in our police department, and spending time with our officers and understanding their commitment to what they do. And that was, as a chief, there's nothing more valuable than to hear people talk that well about your own agency, the town, the commission that they interacted with. So we don't get there by just signing a piece of paper. Eric Aronowitz, you come on up here, Eric. Eric's our accreditation training manager. When he came here 15 years ago for this purpose, and he's the one who led this agency to behind the scenes to establish these policies, procedures, best practices. And it took a couple of years for us to do that. And 2016 was our first accreditation process. And then every 3 years, we go through this process again. It's such a valuable piece to any place, universities and hospitals, but certainly for your law enforcement professionals, it's a big deal. And you as a governing body give us that authority to enforce laws, to restrict people's movement and take their freedom, and in extreme situations, even the authority to take somebody's life if we have to. And we don't take that lightly. And this process ensures that we have those policies, protocols, best practices, and we are measured up to any in the biggest agencies in the state. That's not a small undertaking for a small department. So to have that level of expertise and commitment that Eric brings to the table, that when we started doing this, we had to talk to other agencies. We didn't know where we were. We were a little dysfunctional, and we had a lot of work to do. I can't tell you now what a feeling it is that other agencies are checking in with us to see, what do you do? Do you have policy on? How do you guys deal with that? I had agencies, bigger agencies, 5 times the size of us, that were asking for some of our policies and procedures. When they left here, they sat 2 days with us, that they were impressed with some initiatives and projects and things that we were working on. So, it's to be here today and talk about the staff that we have, the officers, that the commitment that they make to this department, the staff that we have, the job that Eric does behind the scenes. It's you see us out there, all those things happen, but it's the little pieces, the T's that are crossed, the I's that are dotted, the things that keep us as a high risk position. It keeps us in check, is this process and these accountability pieces that we put in place, that we do day after day. So I can't say enough good things about where Eric has taken us. It's not just accreditation. He does our training, he does our procurement, he does evidence. I mean, there's you wear a lot of hats sometimes in a small agency, and Eric's got the biggest head. So I'm kidding, but he wears a lot of hats for our agency, and we're very fortunate. I'm proud to work with the staff that I have, the commitment that these guys make to the agency. Very fortunate, and I'm glad to present this again to you today. And we have another commendation again for Eric, our department commendation, that we recognize his work day in, day out, that's unheralded, that's not seen by everybody else out there, but is one of the key reasons of why we are where we are as an agency, and how we're revered and appreciated and respected in our profession and around this county. So again, another accreditation process for us. We thank you for your support in doing this. It's a big commitment. Town manager, that you help us move forward with so much of this of what we do. Really appreciate that. So thank you.
Congratulations. Excellent job. Excellent. Any other public comments? Go ahead. Please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Edward Atamian, 2727 South Ocean Boulevard in Highland Beach, better known as Villa Magna. I am the president of the Board of Trustees of Villa Magna. And first, before we begin, we want to thank the commissioners, Attorney Rubin and Mayor Moore for their time. We're here to present to you a quick vision of what we would like to accomplish at Villa Magna. Before I begin, I would like to also acknowledge a couple of my fellow board members here today, Mr. Sherman Neff, our treasurer, John Phillips, our vice president, Joan Stein, our director, and our co-chair of our decorating committee, along with many other residents that have joined us. I would like to take a moment to just share with you, and we'll get to those in a minute. In 2018, Villa Magna became a building under construction. We started with our post-tension cables and realized we had a problem. 7 years later, we have exceeded $22 million in renovations. We have completely redone our landscaping in our pool area, our upper deck parking. Our plan was to finish the lower landscaping with new signage and lighting and shrubbery, but we decided to postpone that until A1A project was completed. Currently, we have but one sign for our main entrance of Villa Magna. In determining the look and the size of what we're proposing to you, our main concern was safety. We are somewhat unique at Villa Magna as we have 3 driveways covering more than 375 lineal square feet, with cars and trucks entering and exiting each day, only to have many of those that get turned around because they've entered the wrong driveway, and it's become a safety issue. Also, right next door to us is Delray Sands Hotel. They have 4 driveways, 2 on the east side, 2 on the west side. What it does, between the 500 and some odd lineal square feet of footage, it becomes a very active and sometimes congested and dangerous roadway. If I could, and I know we've sent binders to everyone, I think yesterday, Gerald has some photos we'd like to show you. If you would just start with the main entrance, you can see our proposed signage where we would like signs left and right of our main entrance. So coming north, coming south. Right now, if you come south, before you get to the main entrance and you hit Villa Magna, you've got almost 200 feet of lineal footage. And I've had residents recently tell me, because they knew about our meeting, they tell people where Villa Magna is, it's across from the flagpole, because by the time you get there, you've missed it. So, what do we have up first? So if you look at the north entrance sign over here, these are currently what we have day and night for the north entrance. This is what we're proposing. North entrance. Next one. On the north driveway, this is what's there now, day and night. And you can see they're backlit, more modern looking, a little bit larger in size. And we really feel we can reduce our congestion and our potential accidents with larger, more visible, more modern, more up-to-date signs.
So just to interject, there is a limit on public comments of about 5 minutes, which we've exceeded, but I don't know if you want to wrap it up. Okay.
So this is what we're looking for, these two signs, and that's how they will look at night. Almost the backlit is like what Villanova has right now. So if there's any questions I can answer, but that's our vision, and we're looking for your approval. And if you do approve it, take it as our contribution to Highland Beach's 3 miles.
Thank you for your comment. I guess I have a question for you, Marshall. The normal process is to submit.
They would go for building permits, but I believe the reason why everyone's here, or they would already have a building permit is my guess, right? Is the signs the number of signs is okay. Location is fine. They're too big to our code. Therein lies the issue we have today. The main entrance sign, I believe, is 20 square feet, and our code locks it into 10 square feet. So the smaller signs, they can have those, but they're locked to 3 square feet and they're at about 12.
So is this something that should go before the planning board and be a variance or something?
You can't get a variance. The only thing you can do under code, because it's not in the zoning code, it's in section 23. So basically what it allows is you could go to the Board of Appeals and Adjustment to see if an error was made in interpretation, not a variance from the size. So did we apply something incorrectly? I don't believe that exists. It's just the signs are just bigger than our ordinance allows. The number where they want to put them, what they look like, they look great. They're just too big. So that's the issue that they have. We had a similar issue at Villanova too.
Yeah, we had the same.
So they had to shrink theirs down too.
So you guys just shrunk them?
It was 10 square feet, so we made 1 foot letters and 10 feet long. And what we did, we wanted to put the number up there, but then we would have to change the thing. So we didn't do it. We just kept with it 10 square feet.
Yeah.
So are they talking when they say the letters are that size or the monument that they put it?
It's interesting, right? So if it was a retaining wall, let's say retaining earth or some type of larger wall structure, then the letters would all be locked into the 10 square feet. If it's a standalone monument sign, the monument dimensions have to meet the 10 square feet.
That's where we came in. We have a big waterfall there.
Because it holds up your driveway, so it's a big white wall, so you only got 10 square feet for the letters, where they're doing a standalone, which can be 6 inches off the ground, but it can only be 10 square feet. So in today's presentation, I'm guessing they're asking for, if you give me a little bit of flexibility here, is there interest to modify that ordinance? We can't, there's no variance, so we would have to change the ordinance to allow for a greater size of signs. So that's up to the commission. Do you want larger signs or not? And then the process would be anything that you prescribe, which we'll talk about later in the meeting is our process. I'm guessing the residents would be the champion or the stakeholder of interest for the change. And then you can move it through the planning board. You could go to the you can send it to all the boards and commissions for their opinion. I think the process will take some time, unfortunately, if there is a desire, just because it's kind of subjective, right? Some people will say 10 square feet's too small. Some will say it's too big. Some will say it's just right. So getting through that process, I think, is going to take a little bit of time. And I'm sure that if you send it to the planning board, they're probably going to want to have first discussions and try to solicit comments from the public to say, what should we do? Because it's difficult. Now, if we do recall House Bill 180, I know that Len and I know that Commissioner Goldberg was asking, is this considered more burdensome? Which then the statute says we can't change any ordinances until 27 as it relates to signage. That's something that we'll have to get Len to weigh in on is, how do you determine burdensome or more restrictive? One would assume that if you make it bigger, it's less restrictive. However, somebody might say more signs or bigger signs are burdensome to my quality of life. I don't know. So I'll leave that to Len. That sounds challenging. So let him chime in on that. But that's basically what we want. I know you're getting it for the first time. We have a passionate group, so they want the larger signs. So it's a matter of, do you want to move it forward? More information? What do you tell me what you want? And I'll take it from there.
You want to take it?
Of course.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all, you've done a beautiful job over there.
Thank you.
Very, very impressive. Nice assessments. You've done a fabulous job. As far as health and safety, when I give directions to people that ask me, where is Villa Magna? I'll tell you what I tell them. I don't even look at the sign. I tell them they're right across from where all the lifts are. And there'll be two boats there and they're right across. Now, what I wasn't aware of, and the chief could probably help us out, I wasn't as sure from a safety issue if you were having accidents there. That I had not heard. So has there been a track record of accidents in front of Villa Magna?
It's more the coming and going and unnecessary turnarounds
Okay.
because and we see it, our security sees it on their camera all the time. Truck pulls up, back up, go into traffic. I've seen it with Uber drivers. They go to the south driveway, then they got to back up because the it all looks alike and all the sides, no disrespect to anyone. I'm sure these signs were great back when the building was built back in 82. I'm not sure that 2025 is the same. Everything changes. We started out with larger wants and then we've shrunk them down. We're not looking to put up a billboard with flashing lights.
Sure.
This would, and we're almost in the middle between Linton and Spanish River. This, I think, enhances everything as well as what we feel is our safety issue.
So
But
if
that's for everyone to.
So if I could weigh in just a little bit, so we could have a long discussion. This
Right.
wasn't a noticed agenda item. This is a public comment to consider it. It's fine. We can talk a little bit. We can't get too deep into the conversation because the public hasn't been noticed that we're going to discuss this ordinance.
Okay.
But if you say, hey, we're interested to hear more, move forward, I can, either we can start the conversation at our next meeting here, or we could probably what we need to do to kick it forward with more instruction to the planning board.
So I'd suggest we talk about it here as our next step, have it properly noticed and have us
Yeah.
a little bit more informed and if you could bring more information for us, and then we can determine the next steps.
So the next meeting, I'll bring it back as an agenda item.
Okay.
So please come back and engage in the conversation. And then we'll try to figure out, it's December
18?
Or
December
Four.
4th.
Oh, December 4th.
Second.
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 I would
December
like
2nd.
it- I support that to move it forward. And particularly, we had a brief conversation before we opened. With the new state law that prohibits us until 2027 from making a more restrictive, I'd like to know, is there defined in that statute restrictive? I want to know
No.
more about that. And can we, I think that the signage, you did a wonderful job
Thank you.
and
Really
it's quite
nice.
beautiful. But I think that we need the attention to the uniformity and where we're going on the signage. And certainly, it can be limited and reduced in size and still have it prominent, whether the letters are, reflective of the light, et cetera. But I think that we should look at it as part of our town planning on all sides.
So just to respond to that, to Commissioner Goldberg's comment, there is no definition in the statute. There is a lawsuit challenging Senate Bill 180 that's been filed, and they actually now filed their motion for injunction. So we might, if all, the stars align perfectly, we might get some relief on it. But one of the allegations is the failure to define what's more burdensome or restrictive. So you kind of hit upon a salient point there, but I'm happy to look at it and be prepared to address it at the next meeting.
Thank you.
That's it. So we should
else?
plan on December 2nd?
Yep. Come
Okay,
back.
Yes.
come
Please,
back.
Come back, December 2nd. We'll
We're
keep
right down the
conversation
street.
going. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And just to level set expectations too, this is a long process. It's gonna go to
Unfortunately,
point.
the process takes a little bit more. You've been patient to date. The road could still be under construction. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. So- But it'll take a little bit of time
Yes.
to, but looks positive and tracking in the right direction.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We lose our biggest audience.
Thanks, guys.
I know.
Thank you.
We lose our biggest audience.
Yes.
Okay, what are we doing?
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
of course, of course. Oh, you're ready for the next? Hey, Maggie, come on up.
Hi, Maggie Chapelier, Bel Air Drive. I was just listening to this sign, 2027 is the restriction. I've been working with Jason Chudowski. Did I say it right?
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting, Maggie. I want to hear what John's gonna.
And I think I've made this presentation to the commission.
Yeah.
That realtor signs are really out of hand. And as John just pointed out to me, it's the structure itself that holds up the sign is also out of control. And I heard that I had to wait for 2027. But if you say that it's going to be lifted,
Well, I'm not saying it's going to be lifted. I said there's a possibility it could be
okay,
lifted.
because the
We're
realtor
hoping
signs
It could be lifted.
are a big deal on the side streets and probably on A1A. We are bombarded sometimes, depending on the market, with these ugly signs. I've made that presentation, what, a year ago? And I've have Jason here to help me on it. And so I was slowed down because of the 2027 thing. So let me know. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Thank you.
listened, and I think that was what our attorney said. So thank you for bringing that forward. Thank you,
We had a
Maggie.
lot of discussion.
Yes, we
on that,
did.
too.
We did.
Supportive
Yeah.
of change.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we moved it forward.
We are supportive. It's just we're limited in what we can do. Yeah. Any other public comments? Very few people are left. Okay. Moving on to ordinances. There are no ordinances. Moving on to consent agenda. There's one item on the consent agenda. Any discussion? And if not, can we have a motion
No.
to accept?
I move to accept and approve the consent agenda.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to unfinished business, building department recertification program update.
So the building department is not in today. Well, they're here, but the person, cat's out ill today. So we have 28, since your last, we have 28 buildings that have reached their recertification. So that's good news. 28 buildings are done. And we have 21 that are under permit. And then two buildings that we sent a noter that they're within the strike zone of the ordinance, meaning within the next couple of years, they have to get these things done because their buildings have finally aged to a point where they have to, meaning they've reached that 20-year mark. So we're making great progress. All buildings are committed to this, moving through it. I know it's frustrating out there. I hear you all. I received comments. It's good to see people at the homecoming want to talk about it too. I understand it's frustrating, expensive, time consuming. But hopefully at the end of the day, we'll have a very safe and sound 3 miles of paradise with healthy buildings that everyone can live in comfortably without concern.
Hey, Marshall, I think they've done an incredible job. I mean, having them go to a couple of buildings and find a number of items and have people say thank you is really a real thing. And people are saying thank you to the team. They've done a great job.
Yeah. And I think some of the comments, people are starting, and I understand it, and we kind of mentioned it, and it's on topic, but slightly off, is the fire safety inspections are still out there. We knew there was a problem. I'm looking at Glenn because we knew that we were going to get into, we just didn't know the scale and the scope. A lot bigger and deeper than we thought with how many issues in these buildings. And I know that's also striking the nerves of some folks, like, oh, we just went through all this and now we've got to put in fire doors when they didn't have fire. We're working with everybody. The fire department's doing a great job. giving them some room to exercise judgment and cost perspective to get these things done. But that's also, frustrating folks a little bit. So, but once, we're getting there, we will get there at some point in the near term. Everybody will be safe and sound. All buildings will have passed fire inspections, and then we could stop with the false alarms. I mean, this is driving me crazy. So, and the reason why I say that, it costs, rough numbers, $9,000 to $10,000 for, if you take all fire costs and every time it exits, to go to a false alarm for the third or fourth time at the same address, it starts to get expensive. So I thank you again for changing the fee structure to begin to try to recapture some of our lost cost on those false alarms. But once we get through the fire safety and all that stuff gets fixed, I think we'll be in a much better place.
That's great.
Okay.
Moving on to the Florida Department of Transportation RRR project update.
There's a project? Yeah, I hope we are in the last throes of this. They're supposed to be done November 16th-ish. I still see a lot of little stuff. The road may in fact be paved by that date with the final wear course, but there's a lot of touch-up work with driveways, ADA crossings, sod work, minor grading. They still have a lot of work. So I think they'll be around for another month or so. But hopefully they're getting out and out of the way because we're having wild success. Thank you, Maggie, for giving me the email with our sanitary sewer lining project. That's going very well. And we're basically coming in behind FDOT. So the side streets are pretty much done. So that's how fast they're moving. So they've all been lined with great success. We haven't seen a lot of major issues in there, but we're going to be getting out into A1A over the next week or two and then start lining the rest of that and hopefully be done before the holidays come and all of our snowbirds come back and use a lot of water. So.
Wow, that's super fast. That's great news.
What I want people to know is the difference between a town run job and an FDOT job. And you will see that when you go outside.
Great job. Yeah, I see they work long hours for sure. Very good. Okay, moving on to new business. Item A, introduction of a proposed ordinance providing reasonable accommodation procedure for certified recovery residences.
Yes, Mayor. So this is another mandate from our friends up in Tallahassee. This issue was a very hugely hot topic back in the 2000s, 2010s, maybe. Our neighbor cities, Boca and Delray, really took the brunt of it. The establishment of all these they call them recovery residences. The old term was sober homes. It's the same thing. It's essentially people living in a group or family setting undergoing recovery. My voice is going today, so I apologize. So basically, the legal framework is that under the ADA and the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Fair Housing Act, persons undergoing substance abuse treatment are considered disabled as long as they're undergoing treatment. So as a government, we must make reasonable accommodation to allow them variances, or not technically variances, but allow certain deviations from our zoning code, our regulations to, accommodate the disability. The main thrust of what is argued is that it's been established by numerous studies that these group settings help facilitate recovery. And these groups and the industry will argue these group settings should be in residential neighborhoods because it sort of normalizes and, it helps with the recovery process. So back in 2015, the state of Florida came up with a certification program because recognition, and we all read about it in the newspapers and the task force and all this stuff, the scams. There were so many unscrupulous operators out there. So they created this certification process. So the reliable operators or, the typical good operator could go through this process and be certified. And then they would be run by these certified administrators. So at least there'd be some safeguards in place for these people because many people were, they were building insurance companies, they were getting built, all this kind of stuff. So in Highland Beach, we never really addressed this. So I guess you're lucky because some of my other cities did have to address this years ago. Never really addressed it. And my guess is the reason is when they set them up, they usually have the residences close to where they're doing the treatment. Usually they do the treatment in an outpatient center near, usually in medical offices. So then they transport back and forth from these homes, and that's the residential component. Then there's a treatment component, all this kind of stuff. Long story short, the legislature passed a bill last session that says you have to come up with a procedure for the process for these certified residences. Now, it's still the same analysis under the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's the same standards. So what we had to go ahead and do is create a framework, which most cities had in place, but just a framework. And the framework is pretty basic. It's, they have to apply, the property, show that they're licensed, show that they're certified, kind of jump through all these hoops. And then they would go through the process. It would go to the building official initially for review, or whoever the building official might designate, go for review. And then it would come. Generally, we have it go to a magistrate for final hearing. It takes the politics out of the process. So it's sort of like a third party neutral because, look, this is a hot topic. As soon as somebody hears, sober home or recovery residents, their, backs go up and it gets very hotly contested. So it's set up similar to many other cities that goes through a magistrate process. A lot of the procedural requirements in the proposed ordinance are from the statute. There's these timeframes where you have to review it, and if it's not reviewed by it's deemed approved, and you have to have the hearing within so many days. That's all from the statute that we have to include in our ordinance. Commissioner Goldberg and I had a question. It was a very good question before, and well, how does this affect condominiums or even HOAs for that matter? It does not. You can still have restrictions in your declaration of condominium or your association documents that limits rentals, the number of people that could reside there, all those sort of things. Occupancy, we do have occupancy limits because they're part of the property maintenance code, which we incorporate. They're a little more generous than I would say maybe some of the condominiums and the associations would allow, but it does not apply to those. So you can still, this is just for the town's regulations, the town's ordinances and the town's procedures. And really under the town's procedures, it's really probably occupancy where they'll get tripped up. Because there are like room requirements for depending on how many people you have and square footage and all that kind of stuff. And I've done that analysis in other jurisdictions. But this is the introduction because it will go into the zoning code. It will have to go to planning board anyway. So I just wanted to introduce to the council, see if you have council. I'm so used to council, sorry, the commission. And if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or make any. And in response to Commissioner Goldberg's comment, I will include something that says this does not override any, association or declaration document, something to that effect. It's just meant really for the town and the town's codes because we're subject to the ADA. Okay. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any limitation, or does the law as it presented give us any guidance as to any limitation within the boundaries of our town?
So as far as what you have to
Yeah.
accommodate,
Yeah.
it does not. It's it's the minimum necessary to achieve the goal of, it's really up to the applying party to demonstrate that they need this amount of people and this is what's going to contribute to the recovery and all that kind of stuff. There was a white paper that was issued years ago by Department of Justice and a couple of agencies that the only time you get much discretion. Now, look, if they were trying to overload with people and it's just unreasonable and it could be denied. The only time you get discretion is really if they start to group in one area, because if the stated purpose is that these should be in neighborhoods, just among the general population. Well, if you start putting them all in one place, then you're defeating the purpose, the stated purpose of the residents. So that's really your only limitation. Your hands are tied to a certain degree. It just, again, it's this reasonable standard that needs to be applied.
The special magistrate, the fees incurred for that.
There will be fees incurred. No,
Can we impose them if it doesn't provide it?
most don't. I don't know if we can because it's sort of like under the ADA, FHA. Usually there's no fee associated with it. Whether we can or not, I'll look into that. I've never seen one that does, which makes me believe that we probably can't, but I will make sure just in
It's
case.
just with the application.
Yes, ma'am.
I would want to.
The application, we don't charge for, but like, you're right, we'd have to incur fees for the magistrate. So could we pass those along?
So are there best practices? Like how much leeway do we have in the framework? Best practices that would prevent these types of homes from popping up? Is the
Well-
occupancy really the best way to limit?
So that's an interesting question too, because what most cities did way back when, if they hadn't had it in their code already, we're gonna go back to Senate Bill 180. It seems to be a recurring theme. They have a definition of family. So like you can't have more than 3 unrelated persons.
Right.
We don't have that. Now, I think that's probably good because we never had to address it. But unfortunately, because I was thinking when I was originally going back and forth with Ingrid, we were sort of talking about how we want to structure this. And I said, we don't have that limitation on family, but then all of a sudden, well, we can't limit family to 3 or more persons because again, it's a Senate Bill 180. It's a more restrictive, more burdensome. So I think it would probably come with the occupancy. Also, what's also interesting about this, years ago, for 2 of my cities that when we adopted our procedures, even though legally it didn't say this, we require them to be certified and we're never challenged on it. Sort of saying, and I did reach out to one, there's a few attorneys in town that represent these providers. And I reached out to one of them who I know pretty well, who's pretty much represents the quote unquote good providers. And I said, hey, would you object if we require them to be certified? And he's like, no, because they should be certified. So I was like, okay. So, and now we have to adopt the procedure. This is already presuming that they're certified. So it's there's not much deviation in answer to your question. And the only other things that we could possibly do to sort of lessen the chance of receiving these applications, I don't think we can do because of Senate Bill 180.
What a tremendous scope, breadth and scope of that,
It comes up every day.
thing against the home rule. Yeah.
It really does. And I'm hoping it's North Palm Beach decided they were going to get very involved in the 180 lawsuit. So I was actually drafting affidavits last week to help with the injunction, all this stuff. So cautiously optimistic that maybe something will come of that. We'll see.
If they put one of these residents in, do they have to come in front of the town board and have an open meeting and?
Well, they would go before the magistrate is how we've done it. Yeah. And it would be an open meeting. It'd be a public meeting. I mean, it's tough because you have the emotional component of the residents.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes.
I mean, it's understandable. And then you have the legal requirements and the legal parameters that we are required to follow. So that's why it's easier to have a magistrate rather than put you all in this position because, you want to be responsive to your constituents. They elect you to represent them, but yet legally your hands are tied in some respects. So it's easier to sort of take the commission out of the process and have a magistrate deal with it.
So we're required to do this.
We're required to do this. We have
Um,
another one coming soon. So it's just like the hits never end, but the other one is way less. It's just about platting. It's not a big deal.
And we're required to put it before the planning board.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's the next step.
That's the next step. It will go before the planning board.
Is there like a timeline at which you have to
Well,
do this?
We're supposed to have it done by January 1st. We won't have the process done by January 1st, but as long as it's in progress, it's really considered zoning in progress anyway. So, it's not a big deal. And there's no penalty for missing that deadline, but it is, as long as it's in process, which it is before the deadline, I think we're fine.
I would just like a clarification. Do we presently have in any code ordinance, a limitation, or do we speak as to how many people can live in a residence?
And that's what I was saying. We do keep kicking that garbage can. We do, because we adopt the International Property Maintenance Code by reference. So if you've ever opened it, which I'm sure you never had the fun task of doing, there are restrictions about how many people could reside in, look, we have beautiful houses in town of Highland Beach. But, in other municipalities, it does come into play where, you know, if for like each person, one person has to be 10 by 10, and then it has to be 10 by 12 for two, and they keep expanding it. The living areas have to be a certain size, depending on the number of persons that reside there. Because we lack that family definition, that's probably the most restrictive part of our regulations as they exist today.
Okay.
So the question before us is whether or not we should move this along to the planning
Yeah,
board.
we really don't have much of a choice, but yes, that is the decision for the commission.
Given we have no choice, do we have a motion or an agreement?
I mean, I'd like to tell you otherwise.
Make motion, we need a motion to,
Do we need a motion? If
move-
it's
I
a,
think consensus is fine. You're just moving it to the board.
do we have
for the
consensus?
proposed ordinance providing reasonable accommodation procedure for certified recovery residents.
It appears we have consensus
Yeah,
to move
we
this
do.
forward,
Yeah,
right?
All for it.
Right,
Yep.
Consensus to move it to the planning board.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Item B, introduction of a proposed resolution adopting procedures for the initiation and adoption of town ordinances.
The flow chart's in the
Does everybody have a
backup.
flow chart?
I saw the
It
flow
was
chart.
in the agenda.
Blue,
Yeah.
got it?
It's in the agenda. It
Right
is,
now, we're gonna talk about it and I don't see it.
it is on page 30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right before it, Marshall.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I saw it.
Now, there we go. Okay, so Linelda came to me, found this and said we should probably lock this up with a resolution, so it formalizes our decision. Then it's on our strategic plan. So let's bring it forward as the strategic plan to say, do we want to change it? Do we like it? Do we want a broader review of it? Because there were or two residents that expressed some concern over the process. This is just something we put together probably 5 years ago. That just kind of shows how we create an ordinance, because we were at the time bringing a lot of ordinances forward. And we had a couple residents that just felt like we're just springing this stuff on folks. This has worked pretty well. Like we had today, we do an introduction. There's no real action. We're going to introduce it, bring it back, talk about it. And then you guys start formulating what direction you want to go with it. Does it go to the planning board, all the boards? It goes to them. They take recommendations. We could say, like it, don't like it, send it back again. So that's kind of the process. But then we've also added what we call the champion or stakeholder at large that runs the process. It could be a commissioner, it could be a resident group that says, hey, we want this issue changed. So we're going to come to every meeting to make sure it happens. And they're the ones requesting it. Similar to how you had Mr. Bobby redo the marine accessory structures. He kind of said this change is needed and kind of introduced it and kind of shepherded it through the process. That's what we have here. So before we approve it with the resolution, do we like it? Do we want to get some more review? Do we want to send it to the plan, send it to all the boards? Do you like, because it could affect any of them. Do they like this process in the community that we use to adopt an ordinance?
Looks good.
I do agree. It looks good, but I think it would be prudent to have all the boards look, me personally,
Okay.
why not just let all the boards
Look at it.
look at it and provide their input? Yeah, the resident who had concerns about it, I think, they also want time, to perhaps provide input as well. So that would be my opinion is,
Good.
there's no rush really. I mean, I think we're kind of operating under this
We
right
operate-
now.
Staff is operating
Um,
under this
So it's
process.
not like we don't have a process currently.
Oh, wait.
So, might as well, it's on our strategic plan, maybe get everybody's input. There's probably room for improvement.
I concur. I like it. I like it. We hear more of the voices out there in the community through our committees and councils.
I agree with that.
Marshall, Mayor, I'm curious, if we had a group in front of us called strategic planning, who would represent that right now?
Us right here.
Yeah.
We do the
That would be
strategic
po-
plan.
Yeah, that's always been a question I've had. Who are the strategic planning group? I know we're the approval group, but are we really the strategic planning group?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We are. And then you use the committees and boards as like your sounding board or sage advice, if you want, depending on the issue, to bring it back to make those final decisions. In a bigger community, it might be a little bit different, but here, that we do kind of have the infield. We have an active group of probably 50 to 70 residents that really pay attention to what we do on any given week. And they're kind of we're all strategic planners, right? Where does the community want to go? You just kind of coalesce everybody's ideas and desires and puts them into to practice, and keeps me focused on it. It helps us, right? We do everything based on that strategic plan and the 5-year forecast. Here's what we're working on, our big special projects. Here's what we think our budget's going to look like, and we just execute.
So do we need a
So do you
motion?
need a motion?
Just consent.
Or public comment? Yes, public comment.
Good afternoon, Rick Greenwald, Tranquility Drive. Just a couple of comments, questions that came up when I was looking at this. First of all, in general, this is the process that we've been following for some years now. And again, without quibbling over a word here and there, I like the process because it accomplishes what it was designed to do, which was to give the community and the residents adequate opportunity to chime in on any major decisions that are in town. However, in looking at this today, in terms of the formalization of the process, I had two questions. First one was really a legal one. When we do this, and if it passes in the form of an ordinance, as opposed to it just being kind of a commission policy, does that make any difference in the future should potentially, and this is all hypothetical, some resident is unhappy with a decision and decides to appeal an ordinance that is passed because it didn't somehow or other completely follow this process? Is that a potential problem that we could be creating that as an unintended consequence? No need to answer now. I just brought it up. And the second, again, minor hypothetical concern that I might have is that it appears to be a requirement that everything go to its potential advisory board for appropriate review before it comes back. I think that right now our advisory boards are functioning pretty well. There have been times in the past where advisory boards have not been functioning particularly well, with problems achieving quorums with some, in terms of meeting schedules with some. And again, I was just wondering, well, I think it's a good idea for these things to go through the appropriate advisory board, whether on occasion, potentially, we might be throwing unwanted obstacles in our path. If as a timing matter, for example, I know I'm on the financial advisory board, we meet every 3 months. And sometimes in the middle of summer, it can be hard to find a quorum. Well, if something is going to go through and again, not picking on, it's just the board I happen to be on. Does that present a problem if this then is mandated to go through that? And it's some of the ordinances we don't really care, but some we may want to streamline the process a little bit. So those were the only couple of things. I like the process. I like involving the boards. And I just wasn't sure about the whole idea of mandating this, if you will, as an ordinance, as opposed to being I guess it's at the moment sort of an informal policy of the board, of the commission. So that's my only comments about it. I like the process though. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I mean, that's a valuable point. And I would say that I would be comfortable with it being a guideline and that it be up to the commission to determine if, not any, it'll go through some process, but whether that it's not mandatory. It may be heard before all the relevant commissions But
So are you
some
suggesting-
modifying language
Are you,
doesn't get us in that position.
yeah, are you suggesting like there's, where it comes to advisory boards, like perhaps just rewording that to say, you know, if possible, or the guideline is that the appropriate advisory board would review so that it's not a mandatory, like, would it be as simple? Because I think the benefit of making this an ordinance, at least what Linelda explained to me, is that we kind of memorialize it a little better so it doesn't get lost if we have not the excellent staff that we currently have. I know that staff
Correct.
now would never let this fall through the cracks, but in the future, you know, perhaps someone might lose this, or, you know, but if it was an ordinance, then it would make it a little bit more official. So I mean, I wonder if one way to achieve what was just brought up is to say something like the appropriate advisory board may review or something like that to make it,
As determined.
you know.
Yeah, I think-
directed by the.
Right.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a resolution, so it's not gonna be an ordinance, which is more effective law. It's really,
Then it's easy.
it's sort of, you know, this when we're describing our procedures. I think Dr. Greenwald I think they were both good points, actually. The first, I think we should have something in there that the commission can waive or whatever, or, you know, because as long as we meet the statutory requirements for adoption of ordinance, that, you know, you shouldn't be able to challenge it beyond that. Secondly, about the advisory boards, I think that, like, as I said, anything that amends the zoning code has to go to planning board. But then I think it should be up to the commission where you want to send it. You know, if you want to send it to natural, whatever board you want to send it to, if you want to go to all the boards, I think that should be a commission determination. So I think that should be like a may,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
depending on what the commission wants to
Right.
do.
Right.
And so I'll rework the language, and when it comes back next meeting as for adoption, we'll incorporate that language.
a good one.
Done.
So you have our consensus
To
direction
send it out
to
board,
all the boards,
Your
yeah.
opinion on the
Mhm.
process for,
Mhm.
yep,
To get
I
their,
think we
seek
have
their input.
consensus here.
Yes.
We have
Yes.
consensus yet.
okay.
To seek their input on the process. Okay, moving on to town commission comments. Commissioner Shavnowski.
During the last couple of weeks, we had the opportunity to see a little rain. And I was able to take a good look at Lake Milani,
Yeah, that was bad.
if you had an opportunity. If this was in New England, we would have had an ice skating rink.
Yeah, right.
And more curiosity, when they basically get in there to build, I'm just curious, are they going to actually use fill-in? I'm just curious myself, to clarify.
I would hope so. We haven't seen any detailed, I've always asked, where are your civil drawings, structural engineering drawings, utility connections, stuff like that? They're working on that now, actively, so we should see soon, but you would have to, you're not gonna put a parking lot small as they're proposing now underwater. They're gonna elevate and do some grading. They're obligated to do that under the stipulated settlement that they have to accommodate stormwater and do best engineering practices. But yeah, they're gonna have to elevate. Now, do they have to elevate as high as you would for a structure? No, but you don't want that in your, you know, every time it rains, you know, or maybe we do. I don't know. Or maybe so. Keep it underwater more times than not. But I think we'll see more evidence of what their final grading details will be and the civil engineering details as they move forward.
Yeah, my only other point is that during the rainstorm that we had, the rains, and the way they raised the road, which is very smooth when we drive down it now, I think most people notice that it's coming into the sidewalks. Do
Mhm.
they have a plan for that?
Absolutely not. So taken some creative liberties, hopefully with your support, submitted an appropriation. We've been on a 3-year success run, so maybe 4 years, basically to get some monies from the state predicated on kind of an unfinished job. The road's done, but they've wreaked havoc on our right of way. So I've asked for an appropriation to, one, do some additional minor grading, repaving of the safety path. There are spots where it does need to come up a little bit and would give some relief for a walker. So people, every time it rains, they're not in the street. And also to do our embedded crosswalk lighting. You might as well ask while you're there. So I've asked for that appropriation to do it because they have nothing. They've Again, for all of the residents, I put out in all of my communications, we're doing everything to hold them to their commitments. And if you recall, they said they were going to address some of that drainage. Now they're walking back from that a little bit. So I've been pushing that on to our state rep, like here are some of the emails. So thank you for all of you that have sent emails. I forward them along, trying to get those to FDOT as well. I don't want to say they're falling on deaf ears. We're not getting a large response. I think they're solely focused on completion, but you don't see FDOT out here. These are all consultants. FDOT is not here. They're up on Commercial Boulevard, processing pay estimates. So they're not seeing that, but I don't think there is really a plan because the road, if you noticed, isn't poorly. It drains much better now, right?
Better, yeah.
Definitely.
Because it pushes it all to the right of way. So then all of a sudden, it's a lot of our, especially, season, we get a rain event during season, we're going to have 20, 30 people at a time walking out into A1A. That's not really an optimal experience, right? We don't want to put residents, pedestrians and traffic in the same space and whatever that they call a bike lane. It's a marked shoulder, but putting all three users in the same space is never a good idea. So hopefully we can get there. Maybe they would take it on their own to do something. I'm not getting that impression, but we're going to ask, and then maybe we can, if they won't do it, maybe, the legislator along with governor support will say, go ahead and finish. There was a, poor job. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to acknowledge again what we saw here with the award for Eric and listening to Chief Hartman. I mean, he exuded such pride in his department, in his agency. And he should have that. The level of professionalism and the community support running both ways is really outstanding in this town. And it's just wonderful to be a resident, to serve on the commission. Just a really esteemed pleasure. That's really all I have to say today. And we look forward this month going to the National League of Cities and see what we can learn and bring back to our esteemed, lovely 3 Miles of Paradise.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Tom McCarthy for his service. It was a pleasure talking to him all these past couple of years. I've been on a commission, and besides being a fireman, he's a coach for our youth. So I hold that's high in my book, and especially when your kids grow up, you still coach kids. That's meaningful, and I'm sure he's going to coach more now. And our police department, I just like Commissioner Goldberg says, it's being a police officer. They do a great job, and I'm always telling the chief that I don't know anybody. I haven't heard a complaint with the police department. I haven't spoken to anybody who got tickets lately, but everybody loves our police department, and they do a great job. And I just want to thank our veterans out there. I know I come from a veteran family, World War I, II. My mother was even a Marine. So thank you, all your veterans out there. Thank you for helping us out.
Yes, absolutely. I guess the only thing I wanted to bring up was the Milani Park. I'm sure everyone saw the Coastal Star article, and I know a lot of people have been talking about it. Originally, the park was to have 100 parking spots, and the plan it includes 100 spots, but the county has agreed to only move forward with actually building out what they're calling 46 spots, but of those 46, 4 of them are for county staff and 4 of them are handicapped. So the remaining 38 are the general public parking spots. Given where we are here today, tried to change the direction of the park, and the county was not going to change their mind on building out a park. So I think this is the best outcome that we can anticipate, a big reduction in the parking spots. I think the plan, the plan that the architect came up with is a really beautiful plan. It's it's been helpful to collaborate with the county on this. We kept it quiet for a long time, so I'm pleased that they came forward with a commitment of only building out the total of 46 spots. So, so we are moving forward, and I look forward to continued collaboration with the county. Town attorney, any updates from you?
No, Mayor, thank you so much.
Town manager?
Yeah, a few items. See, I'll take them in some of the same order you presented. So again, congrats. Thanks to Tom McCarthy. He was one of our founding committee members, team members to really get this thing together, a technical advisor to myself, Mayor Hillman, and the commission to really make this happen. Gave us some really good advice on how to effectuate to get to that COCPN, which is the rescue part of the operation. And as Chief Hartman, he's done a great job with that department. You really don't see a zero comment accreditation on it. You don't see it. There's always something you did wrong, this or that. So to do it twice in a row is pretty amazing. And I think what it is, and again, we were saying we benchmark ourselves not only against our, what we hold as our own standards, we do benchmark ourselves to those larger agencies, not only in the state, but in the country. And the hardest thing that we do, and Hartman reminded me in a side conversation, so I thought it was interesting to share with everybody, it's difficult. All policing is difficult, right? Responding to crime, solving the crime, apprehending a suspect, getting them to jail. But you know what's even harder? It's kind of hard to really put your mind around it. We spend our time preventing it. So you never even have to get to that point. And that takes a deployment of a new set of thinking, new sets of digital tools that allow us that with your support building that real-time operations center. He's going to come around, talk to you all about that in good time here over the next several weeks. That's hard to do to be so far advanced ahead of a person ready to perpetuate a crime, to stop them before they even start, catch them before they get here, observe them, monitor them, and create that. And that's hard to do. It's a little bit expensive. Thank you for doing that and making those commitments to, to the real-time operations center that we're getting, putting the officers in those patrol vehicles, which will be tied into in time, 911 control. Some of the stuff is really starting to evolve. The two of you that are going to the National League, you'll see some of that there. I think there's one of the case studies there. You should really see what these agencies are starting to deploy around the country. So that's great. What works against us a little bit is the legislator. You will be hearing a lot coming up. The big conversation over the next year, I think it's going to be about a year, is property taxes, right? I sent you all in the email. I sent you the 7 or 8 proposals that the Speaker Perez has put out from his committee on property taxation, different options, what's excluded, what's included, timelines, this, that. And the governor has a stronger perspective that it should be simple, straightforward, no more homestead property, no more tax on homesteaded properties. Homesteaded properties are 43% of our property roll. So my concern is, and again, 80% of our ad valorem is public safety, right? It's really what you get taxed locally for is police and fire. The 6 of us that aren't police and fire really, cutting us, you're not going to make up the 43% that's missing. So we have some challenges potentially ahead that we have to keep our eyes on and monitor moving forward. I think there's solutions. Unfortunately, legislative sessions last 60 days. Sometimes intent is lost in action and the consequences are quite severe. I think it'll play itself out in some, but I just wanted to let you know that we should all be watching it. I get it. Nobody likes taxes, but at the same time, there are certain things that we're charged to provide, or you're charging me to provide, which is police and fire. That's 80%. So we need to figure that out. So hopefully reasonable minds prevail and something reasonable comes out of it that addresses everybody's need. True compromise, true governance. Let's see if it happens. But again, I know, right? But let's keep an eye on that, and hopefully Tallahassee will surprise us all. Same with the electorate. The process, it requires a constitutional amendment. That's 60% of the voters have to approve it, but also it takes 60% of each body, the House and the Senate, to put a proposal on for amending the Constitution on the ballot. So there's some big measures that you have to get through. So I'm thinking compromise should be somewhat forced. Some of those discussions. Optimism for the day. I've started strategic planning, started working through, catching up, give you updates what we've done over the last fiscal year, where we're going with some new projects that have propped up, some new emerging issues, or what I call emerging threats, property tax, things that we have to keep an eye on and monitor. So we'll start that December, January, February, like we usually do. Here's the update. Here's some projects like it. Then you can start thinking about how you want to organize the priorities and where we're going with that. And lastly, Mingle December 4th. It's a big event. Please don't forget. Please, it's at St. Lucy's Catholic Church, 5 to 8. It's always a wonderful event, so please be there. And thanks for those that came to homecoming. I thought it was a wonderful event. I like the smaller ones, got to talk to everybody a little bit more. So, but it was great. And I look forward to the Mingle Jingle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to announcements, board vacancies. We have one vacancy on the Code Enforcement Board and one vacancy on the Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board. November 5th is our next Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board at 11 a.m. November 11th, the town is closed in observation of Veterans Day. November 12th at 1 p.m., we have the special magistrate hearing. November 13th at 9:30 in the morning, we have the Planning Board regular meeting. And then November 27th through 28th is Thanksgiving, and Town Hall will be closed. There are no board action reports. And with that, we can adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.